The crowd at Augusta had seen many champions, but none quite like Scottie Scheffler. Quiet, composed, unshakably focused. To most fans, he was the definition of calm under pressure. A golfer who never cracked, no matter how loud the noise got around him. But in 2025, that calm was about to be tested like never before. The PGA season had started normally enough. Scheffler was dominating the tour, winning the Players' Championship, finishing top 3 in almost every major. He was golf's golden boy. Polite, respectful, and absolutely unstoppable. But beneath the polished smiles and press conferences, something darker was building inside him. For months, whispers had followed him. About favoritism, about unfair officiating, about the PGA's quiet control over which stars they promoted. He ignored it all. That wasn't his world. He just wanted to play. Then came the first sign that something was wrong. During the Memorial Tournament, a strange call from the Rules Committee penalized Scheffler for slow play during the second round. Cameras caught him standing still for 5 seconds, checking the wind before hitting a perfect shot onto the green. And yet, he was hit with a one-stroke penalty. The crowd booed the officials. Scottie said nothing, only smiled and walked to the next hole. But after the round, his eyes told a different story. Sometimes, he said softly, you start to wonder who's really in charge of this game. That one sentence rippled through the golfing world. The PGA brushed it off as frustration, but insiders knew something had changed. By summer, the tension between Scheffler and the PGA had grown silent but sharp. When he arrived at Bethpage Black for the 2025 Ryder Cup, a stage built for glory, the air was thick with something heavier than competition. Even the fans could feel it. They weren't cheering like before. They were watching, waiting, as if expecting something to explode. Day 1 began beautifully. The Americans stormed ahead. Scheffler's drives were monstrous, his putts surgical. Commentators were already calling it the year of Scottie. But on the morning of day 2, something small, almost invisible, flipped the entire event upside down. During the second foursome match, Scheffler's European opponent, Rory McIlroy, lined up for a birdie putt. The crowd behind him roared, not with support, but with anger. Shouts, jeers, insults. Scheffler turned around, eyes wide. He'd never heard that kind of language on a golf course. "Hey," he said, raising a hand. "Cut it out. Let him play." The fans ignored him. The officials stood still. Rory missed his putt, distracted, and for a moment, the entire event froze in awkward silence. That's when Scottie did something no one expected. He walked off the green. He didn't storm out. He didn't shout. He just quietly walked away toward the ropes, toward the fans who had crossed the line. The cameras followed him. The world watched as the number 1 golfer in the world told his own supporters to stop. "Golf isn't about hate," he said. "Not today. Not ever." It was a single sentence, but it hit like a thunderclap across sports media. Commentators didn't know how to react. Fans argued online. Some called him a hero. Others said he'd betrayed his country. And behind the scenes, the PGA officials were in panic mode. By the time Scheffler returned to finish his round, the whispers had already started. He's going against the system. He's embarrassing the event. But Scottie didn't care. For the first time in his career, he wasn't just playing for the trophy. He was standing for something bigger, something that the PGA could no longer control. And that was only the beginning. When Scottie Scheffler walked back to the clubhouse that afternoon, the world outside had already changed. Clips of him confronting his own fans were going viral, millions of views within hours. The caption on one trending post read, "When the world number 1 teaches the crowd a lesson in respect." But not everyone was impressed. Inside PGA headquarters, executives were fuming. They didn't see a hero. They saw a problem. The Ryder Cup, one of the most tightly controlled sporting events in the world, was now spinning out of their hands. Sponsors were calling, reporters were demanding statements, and the social media outrage machine was roaring at full speed. That night, while Scheffler was sitting quietly with his family at the team hotel, his phone buzzed. A message from his agent. "The PGA wants a statement." Something calming. "Don't escalate this." He put the phone down without replying. Scottie Scheffler had spent his entire career trying to avoid drama. But the moment he stood up for Rory McIlroy, he realized this wasn't about drama anymore. It was about principle. The next morning, during the pre-round press briefing, reporters swarmed him. "Scottie, do you regret what you did? Were you trying to silence American fans? Did the PGA ask you to apologize?" He took a deep breath. "No," he said firmly. I don't regret asking people to be decent. Then he looked straight into the cameras. This game is about respect. If that's a problem for anyone, that's on them. The silence that followed was deafening. By noon, that quote was everywhere. ESPN, BBC, Sky Sports, Twitter, TikTok. Golf's cleanest player had just drawn a line in the sand, and the PGA hated it. The backlash behind the scenes, the PGA Tour's communications team scrambled to manage the narrative. They issued a soft statement saying the organization encourages passion, but expects mutual respect between fans and players. To most people, it sounded diplomatic, but to Scheffler, it sounded like cowardice. They weren't protecting the game. They were protecting their image. By day 3 of the Ryder Cup, the atmosphere had turned heavy. The American fans were split. Half adored Scheffler for standing up. Half booed him for embarrassing the team. During warm-ups, someone in the crowd shouted, "Hey, Scottie, why don't you go play for Europe?" He didn't react, but his jaw tightened. Cameras caught it, and within minutes, the clip was all over social media again. Even his teammates were uneasy. A few told him privately that they respected what he did. Others avoided eye contact altogether. He wasn't just a golfer anymore. He was a controversy. The PGA strikes back late that evening. Scheffler received a quiet visit from a senior PGA official in the players' lounge. No cameras, no microphones. Just two men and a very cold conversation. "Scottie, you're a role model," the official began. "But you've put us in a difficult position." "By asking for respect," Scheffler replied. "By making it look like we've lost control." The man snapped back. There it was. The truth behind the smiles. It wasn't about golf. It was about control. The PGA wasn't angry because fans had crossed a line. They were angry because Scottie had exposed it. "Be careful," the official said quietly before leaving. "You're walking a fine line." Scottie sat there alone in the empty lounge, replaying those words in his head. Be careful. He'd heard that phrase before, whispered to players who spoke too honestly about the tour, about the money, about the politics, but he never thought it would be directed at him. That night, he didn't sleep. He kept hearing the jeers from the crowd, the silence from his peers, and the polished lies from officials. Somewhere deep down, a realization began to take shape, a thought that scared him as much as it motivated him. Maybe the game I love isn't as pure as I thought. The next morning, as the sun rose over Bethpage Black, Scheffler made a quiet promise to himself. If the PGA wanted him silent, they'd get the opposite. Tomorrow, in front of millions, he'd tell the world exactly what was wrong with the sport and why it needed to change. The calm, polite world number one was about to go off script. And when he did, golf would never be the same again. The sun was burning high above Augusta National as Scottie Scheffler stood on the 15th green. His face was calm. Too calm for a man who had just shaken the foundations of the PGA Tour. Cameras were flashing, commentators were whispering, and even the crowd could feel it. Something historic was unfolding. Rumors had already started spreading like wildfire. Did Scheffler really walk off the board meeting? Is he creating his own players' league? Did the PGA just threaten him with suspension? No one had real answers. But one thing was clear. Scottie had changed the tone of golf forever. Moments earlier, he had spoken to reporters in a trembling but powerful voice. Golf isn't just about money or sponsorships anymore. It's about heart, about honesty. And if that means standing alone, I will. The world froze. Those words echoed across social media within seconds. Players like Rory McIlroy and Jordan Spieth went silent. Even the PGA officials refused to comment. Inside the clubhouse, tension was boiling. A few board members wanted immediate action. One of them slammed his fist on the table, shouting, "He can't do this! He's under contract!" But another voice, quieter yet firmer, replied, "Can't you see? He already did." That evening, footage surfaced. Scottie packing his bags, leaving the event mid-tournament. Reporters followed him to the parking lot, asking, "Scottie, are you quitting?" But he didn't answer. He just looked at the camera and said, "You'll understand soon enough." The golf community exploded. Comment sections flooded with hashtags, Bark Stand With Scottie and Mar PGA Revolution. Sponsors paused deals. Players started whispering about unity. But behind the scenes, Scottie wasn't alone. A secret group of players, names not yet revealed, were in contact with him, planning something massive. Something that could end the PGA's dominance forever. And as the night fell, Scheffler received a text message from an unknown number. We're ready. Tomorrow we make history. To be continued, the morning sun broke through thick clouds over Augusta National. It wasn't just another day of golf. It was the calm before the storm. Helicopters hovered above, news vans lined the roads, and the entire world waited to see what Scottie Scheffler would do next. Reporters shouted questions as Scottie stepped out of a black SUV, dressed not in PGA attire, but in a plain white polo with a bold logo on the chest. TGL, the Golf League. Within seconds, the image went viral. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Scottie Scheffler, the world's #1 golfer, had just walked out representing a new league, one that the PGA had tried to silence for months. Inside a nearby media tent, a massive crowd had gathered. Cameras clicked like thunder. Scheffler took the stage with a calm but determined look. For too long, he began, the players who make this game what it is have had no real voice. Today that changes. We're launching a league by the players, for the players. The room erupted. Some cheered. Some gasped. And some PGA officials watching from afar looked pale as ghosts. He continued, "This isn't about rebellion. It's about fairness, freedom, and the future of golf. We're not walking away from the sport. We're taking it back." Within hours, the PGA board called an emergency meeting. Rumors flooded social media. Top players like Rory McIlroy and Victor Hovland were in talks to join the new league. Sponsors began to divide, some backing the PGA, others joining Scottie's movement. By the end of the day, the PGA had suspended Scheffler indefinitely, but that only made him stronger. His response on live television stunned everyone. If standing for truth means being suspended, then suspend me forever. Crowds outside cheered. The hashtag #DearFreeScottie trended worldwide. For the first time in golf history, it wasn't the PGA calling the shots. It was the players. As night fell, a quiet moment showed Scottie sitting alone on the 18th green, staring at the empty course bathed in moonlight. A reporter's voice echoed faintly from a distant speaker, and that was the day golf changed forever. He smiled slightly and whispered to himself, "No, this is just the beginning."